Hello and welcome to another episode of the Bikini Podcast. This is episode number 121, and today we're with six-time FMG Pro Champion Tani Sheehan, and we're going to be discussing the recent FMG Gold Coast show, the April show, which is the first show of the year. Tani, thank you and welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me as always. It is always such a pleasure. And this time I feel like we're so fresh into this wrap up. Like it is so clear and fresh because it's only been a few days.
It's only been a few days, so we've had a really good amount of competitors that I suppose in bikini athletic that were really interesting, but we're going to talk about wellness first. But I actually want to point out this is probably the first time I've had you on since you've had the six titles. So
That old thing.
it's been a bit of a ride. So do you want to quickly talk about that for a bit before we'll do a side quest before we go
Okay.
into the show. So I mean, why so many shows last year?
Um, it was fun. It was really, really fun. And I suppose after the previous year, when it was the other federation that we won't mention, I just felt kind of restricted in terms of what shows that I could do. So now that FMG has come about, it's such an even playing field. I feel like it doesn't matter what show you go to, it doesn't matter who the promoter is, it doesn't matter who your posing coach is, and all of these other ridiculous things. It's purely just about the athlete on stage. And that was really exciting for me because that was something that held me back from wanting to go international for so long because I just wanted a fair go. So, yeah, last year was just honestly about fun and knowing that my big dream is to win a world title. I also wanted to see how I went against other international athletes because, for the most part, girls don't really travel over to Australia to compete. So I only, kind of know where I sit with those girls. And yeah, I just wanted to get more stage experience and a little bit of travel amongst all the fun.
That's really cool. What would you say for the ladies that are perhaps curious about competing overseas that have yet invested in that idea? Would you recommend them to do, if they're Australian, to do a local show first and then to perhaps consider doing an overseas show? Because there are a lot of shows coming up. And I know that with the June show coming up, there are a lot of ladies that are competing at that show. So would you recommend for them to also consider doing an international show?
Yeah, I think personally, I love doing an Australian show first because to be on home soil, have your coaches there, have your family, your crowd, it's honestly just like it's unlike anything else to have that support. And then once you've been able to kind of experience that support, then I feel like it's really nice to kind of go overseas and try it in a new and a different way. I also am biased and I do feel like our Aussie girls bring the heat always. So being able to spread that globally will also be really cool because it will just continue to level up the standard across the entire world.
Absolutely. And going to this show, there's probably one thing that I want to mention before we get into some of the athletes. I thought it was really cool that they decided to get rid of the evening gown and they
Mhm.
made it a little bit more of an interesting thing at registration night. So, what were your thoughts on that? Did you think that was a good move as an athlete and as a coach?
Okay, as a coach, I loved it. And as a spectator, it was amazing because it made the show run so much faster. It was a lot smoother. And I think it was also really nice for the girls to be awarded in their bikinis because at the end of the day, they are athletes. It's not a beauty pageant. From an athlete perspective, originally, I wasn't 100% sold on it. And the only reason I wasn't sold on it was because I have a tradition every single show that when I finish the bikini round, I go backstage, I have a cookie, and then I squeeze into my dress. So I was like, I don't know how I'm going to feel about that show wise. But also, I suppose the vision that I've been manifesting for so long was always a gorgeous gown and then a crown. So for me, it's just about adjusting the vision. And a lot of the girls that I spoke to, clients and people backstage, actually loved it. So I feel like I'm being persuaded. I'm definitely going to come around to the idea.
Okay, very good. I actually really liked it, and I like the idea of it because I do feel like a lot of the ladies work really hard to get into a certain level of condition, and it's just nice to receive your trophy, showing your bikini and having that condition displayed. That's just, I suppose, a coach's perspective rather than the athlete's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So let's actually get into the show. So we have wellness to discuss first, which was really interesting. But so we're going to talk about the female category specifically. And we have in first place, we have Laura Davidson. Second place, we have Ruby Grant. And in third place, we have Katie Mullins. So what are your thoughts on this top three?
I think this is a perfect placing. For me, honestly, Laura was a clear standout. She had the density, she had the conditioning, and she was just this short little pocket rocket. I loved her energy. I loved that when she was posing with such intention to actually make sure she was flexing the muscles that needed to be seen instead of kind of just moving through it. I think because the bikini categories are usually so big, people take inspiration from bikini posing and forget that they need to highlight different things. So I was actually really, really happy with how the top three were.
You know what? I agree. I think that Laura was a clear winner. And I think that's based on her conditioning. When she walked on stage, you could see that her quads and glutes were probably the most separated out of the top three, which I really like. Personally, 241. So that was Ruby. I really did like her shape. I think that, she probably to me is my favorite out of the three ladies, just on her shape and structure. I think that probably what was missing for her to take the top spot was just that next level condition. I think that if she brought that conditioning in, she would have done really well. And I think that she's got a really bright future. In particular, I definitely would say that, she's got the quad shape, the midsection. She's got the overall look and the presentation on point. And I think this was her first time on stage, and she presented really well, like posed really well, and had that level of confidence. So I would love to see her. I'm not too sure what her plans are, but I'd love to see her do the June show.
I actually think she might be going international. I think she
Mm.
might be doing a US show. I completely agree. I think she has so much potential. Her shape is beautiful. Like her quads are insane and even more insane in real life. It would just require a little bit more conditioning, which might be really exciting if she is doing an overseas show because she'll have time to kind of bring in that overall package.
Yeah. And I will say with Katie in third place, you know what? Probably the bikini. I don't like the bikini for wellness. Like the top half of it. Like what are your thoughts on that? I feel like it doesn't for a wellness type of look. I think that type of bikini is probably more, let's say, fitness and figure.
Definitely. Yeah. I think what it did is it really emphasized her upper body and kind of pushed her more into an X frame rather than the disproportionate lower body. So, yeah, I agree. I don't think it was the best bikini choice. I loved the color on her, but the style, I think maybe she could have gone with something a little bit different, particularly in the bikini cup itself. But her level of muscle was pretty gnarly. I will say you can tell she worked very, very hard in the gym.
Yeah, definitely agree. I think you're right. The color was on point. Just would like to see a bit of a change. I think for reference, for anyone that is curious, I would say that Ruby had a really nice bikini for wellness because it showed the proportions nicely. So anyone that's a first time competitor, or you're considering, what type of style of bikini to aim for or to work to, I'd say use Ruby as a point of reference because that bikini showed off her legs in proportion quite nicely and was able to show off the wellness proportions really well with that type of style. Shall we move on to the next category?
Let's do it. Athletics.
All right. This was my favorite of the day. It was a stacked lineup. It was a lot of ladies in really good condition and some really good competitors that didn't actually even place in the top three. So we have in first place, we have Taylor, is it Belshaw? Second
Mhm.
place, Caitlin Fisher, and third place we have Taylor Clark. So the battle of the Taylors with Caitlin in the middle in second place.
I have to say, across all the categories, you're going to notice whoever's either placing first and second, second and third, first and third, so many have the same name. There's like two Zoes, there's two Caitlins, there's two Taylors. It's honestly crazy.
And I think there was a few Amy's as well.
Yeah, yeah.
So first place, I believe, were you, she was a Posing Institute client?
She was with the Posing Institute with our bikini athletic queen, Samantha Wick. So it was a perfect match for the two of them.
Her conditioning when she walked out was spectacular. I thought to me, the bikini was really nice. I liked it. And the style of it, the color was really good. Her presentation stood out to me, like in terms of her confidence. I felt like she was really owning her shots. And, I had two clients in this class, Taylor being the other Taylor in third place being one of them. And when I seen this girl, I thought, oh, she's going to be competition. She definitely had really nice proportion. And I think that, probably what got her the win, I would say, was definitely her conditioning. Her conditioning was probably arguably the best, if not, probably equal with Taylor. I think the other Taylor was quite well conditioned, but the quad density was probably what got her over the line. what were your thoughts on this top three, and I suppose the order of the top three as well?
I very agree with the order of the top three. I think Taylor was definitely a clear standout to me. I think yeah, just her overall conditioning was insane. I loved the density, and whether that is because she's a little bit shorter, it might have played to her advantage. Whereas I know a lot of the other competitors did have longer legs, so that is always harder when you're looking at something like, quads. Um, just would have loved to have seen her in a bit of a darker tan. Or
Mm.
perhaps a bikini that just popped a little bit harder on her. It was very, you could not ignore her conditioning and the way that she looked. I just feel like next time she needs a little bit more pizzazz in terms of her bikini and her tan, just to kind of highlight her a little bit more.
I agree with the tan. I think the tan was a little bit interesting, the color. So I'm not too sure what the application process was like.
Mhm.
I was actually personally surprised with Caitlin in second, only because of her condition. I think that her structure, her genetic shape, her proportions, I think she's probably the best, the most well-proportioned athlete out of the top three. And I think that, yeah, she's got the most density, the better proportion, but the conditioning was off. So
I agree.
with Bikini Athletic, my personal opinion, I would have moved her to third. I think
Mhm.
that conditioning, particularly with this category, is most important. Even though she's got the best, I believe she's probably got the most well-proportioned, best physique out of the three. The
Mhm.
condition was something left to be desired, and I would have liked to have seen her harder, which if she was in shape, she could take the show. But because she's not, I feel like they need to put her down and not reward that level because let's say if this was in the pros, she wouldn't be in the mix because she's out of condition, in
Mhm.
terms of what her potential is. But I
Mhm.
actually really like her physique and I think her presentation was pretty good, like her
Love her
posing,
pose.
her confidence. How many times
Beautiful.
has she competed?
I want to say this might be her second or her third time, perhaps. I think with bikini athletic, it is still a relatively new category, and I feel like it's still kind of developing along its scale. So for me, Taylor is probably closer in terms of shape, where she's kind of moving more towards that balanced shape within fitness, let's say, but still within the same size and conditioning needed for athletic. Whereas I feel like for me, Caitlin still has an overall bikini shape. She's just a lot bigger and a lot denser than the bikini category. So it is kind of this still developing category for me. There's
Yeah,
not a like this is what it is. It's like, are we bikini athletic? Are we are we fitness athletic? We're kind of finding that way, I feel.
and this is going to be a really interesting, I suppose, when we see what happens with Worlds with the pros, because that's something perhaps we can talk about after we've done this wrap up. Is discuss like, you know what, let's do it now because it's kind of interesting. It's kind of relevant to this category. So, in the mix, I suppose, in terms of who has the crowns and who would be, let's say, the leaders or the ladies at least that, you know, I would say that would be competing for the top spot right now. That doesn't mean that any of these, there's ladies outside this three that I'm going to mention that aren't capable because they are. We just have yet to see that. So the
Mhm.
ladies that I've seen that have proven that they're in the top of the food chain, they're in the mix would be Letitia because having three crowns. We also have Sam Wicks who has two crowns.
Rounds, yep.
And we also have Ria, who just won the Bali show. So those are the three ladies that I think have stood out. I do think that there are ladies that can knock on the door and perhaps challenge them, but we have yet to see that. So, you know, there is, it's an interesting look because all three of those ladies have different physiques, different strengths and weaknesses. So, you know, it's going to be really interesting to see what they reward. What are your thoughts or predictions on what you believe could be if all three ladies brought their best physique for
Mhm.
Worlds? How do you see that going down? I know it's very hard to visualize that, but what are your thoughts at least or predictions for the moment?
I'm always biased and I am going to forever be Team Sam because I adore her physique. I think she's so spot on. For me, what I think is really cool is that all of those three girls came from bikini originally and they have obviously continued to grow and then continued to bring the conditioning to move into that category. I haven't yet seen anyone move down from fitness, like let's say a smaller fitness competitor move down into bikini athletic. And I feel like that's where things could be quite dangerous. Just given what we've seen last year with the girls when they brought their absolute best when they were winning their championship titles, I would say Sam as number one, which she would be my top pick. I just love her overall balance. Her symmetry is just insane. I've never seen glutes like that. I see her all the time. She still blows my mind. Second for me, I am going to say Letitia when she is on her game. For the Bali show, I think she was a little bit off. She was definitely off her game, and that wasn't the best that I've seen from her. And then I also was very, very impressed by Ria's physique for the Bali show. So again, maybe it wasn't quite there for the Australian show, but she definitely wowed me for Bali. So it's kind of that hard pick between for me between Letitia and Ria because they're both incredible athletes, and I've both seen them at different points beat each other and bring in a better package than one another. So it'll be really cool to see what an off season does for them if they are both competing at Worlds.
Yeah, and it's I suppose they've competed against each other. Both were off at one point, so we've yet to see them both sort of, let's say on or even close 95% type of range against each other. That would be interesting. And then we've yet to see those two ladies up against Sam as well. So that leaves a lot of speculation. It creates a lot of fun and a lot of buzz with the category where we've yet to see a comparison. We know what Letitia and Rhea look like next to each other. We've yet to see what Sam looks like, and of course some of the other ladies that pros that are looking at competing. So we'll have to see who wins the crowns in the lead up to Worlds and who stands out if there's anyone that's also going to challenge those three ladies. But it's really interesting because I think that they all have their strengths. They all have a lot of density as well. I think probably Letitia is probably the most dense athlete out of the three with the most
Most
muscle mass.
yeah.
That it's going to be like what amount of muscle can she put on and what type of improvements can she make that's still within the bikini athletic criteria, and then what could be venturing off into fitness. And I think that, as an amateur athlete, out of these three ladies, going back to, Taylor, the two Taylors and Caitlin, all three have plenty of room to grow into their bikini athletic physique, particularly when they go into the pro ranks. And I think all three ladies will eventually, well, we have one already a pro, but the other two are definitely
Just a matter
capable.
of when, I think,
It's
yeah.
just a matter of time. They'll compete again. They'll work on their physique and they've got the structure, they've got the look, and I think they will eventually be rewarded with a pro card. I actually want to talk about some of the other ladies in this category that were quite impressive. We had a discussion, I think, at finals just before, and I said, I really like the yellow bikini, which I believe was Michaela. I
Well, yeah.
think that her rear shot was absolutely crazy. Her glute hamstring tie-in, the glute development for me, I think probably had arguably the best rear shot out of the whole show. So, what were your thoughts on Michaela, and why do you think? And I'm looking at the top 10 here. She ended up finishing in sixth place. So, yeah, what do you think about her rear shot, and what do you think about her overall package?
Yeah, I do really, really like Michaela's physique. And I agree, if Bikini Athletic was one from the back, I do think she could have easily taken it out. She has her tie-ins are just so long and so deep and crisp, and it's honestly stunning to watch. I was not a fan of her bikini choice. I think the color was really nice against her skin, but I think her bikini top style, it lost a lot of her upper body size for me. Like I had seen her at some of our TPI workshops and I'd seen her physique and I thought she looked absolutely incredible. I felt like the cups were perhaps a little bit too wide, that it kind of broadened her through the chest, but then the straps that were kind of connecting to the halter neck were a little bit too thick, that they actually took away from some of that delt size that I would have liked to have seen. So I do agree with the way the placings were made, but I think if it were another day and perhaps she altered maybe some of her front poses to make her legs look a little bit bigger, then she definitely could have been within the top three.
Yeah. So, would you say that perhaps her posing selection, because from memory, she was hitting shots that perhaps, let's say from the front or the side, particularly the side that were maybe a little bit glute heavy, but not necessarily showing quad and hamstring density. That's what
Yeah.
yeah, okay. I'm with you. I can see that. I think that, yeah, because she's a taller athlete as well, probably needs to have a little bit more density to fill out her frame in that department. So it's like, she can add more size. I would love to see her compete again with, you're right, different posing, a different bikini. But when she walked out, I was just like, oh, she's super impressive. So that was one of my favorites of this class that I suppose didn't place. But what was there any other ladies in this class that you thought were that stood out?
Yes, her name is Lauren, and her quads were absolutely shredded, like full quadzilla shred lord. Loved her. As you do, you have a little stalk when it's coming to the show. So I had seen her online and I was like, whoa, this girl is going to be so dangerous. but just lacking that little bit of size when she was on stage. And I think very similar to Michaela, her quads were her strength. Her glutes looked, they could be a little bit bigger, but they still looked amazing. I think when it comes to posing selection for the bikini athletic category, it needs to be less bikini posing, and it needs to be more of a blend of having the athletic within that. So you might have a crazy front shot where your glute projection looks gnarly. Great. Okay, we can see the glutes. But then your next posing selection needs to actually highlight the quads, or highlight the conditioning. You can't stick to that one same pose, because when the judges are going through their criteria and they are looking at something like quad density, they're not actually going to be able to see it in that particular pose. So I feel like, yeah, perhaps if Lauren or Michaela added a little bit more variety to their front poses, it could have shown a bit more for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a good point. I think that it's very easy with bikini or bikini athletic to think about it's a glute show, but it's really not. It's about the top to bottom balance. It's about having your shoulders matching your quads, your glutes matching your hamstrings, and having complete development. And if you don't have complete development, showcasing your weaknesses in a way where it doesn't look so much of a weakness. And that's about working with the right posing coach and having the right posing selection. And with bikini athletic, I do find that some of the ladies are, you're right, glute heavy with their posing. And it's like, let's get away from that and go back to selecting shots that are showing balance throughout your physique, because that's what the judges are looking for. At the end of the day, they need to figure out, who's going to be placing in the top three and what separates the top three. And normally, with, for example, Caitlin, placing second, I think that what they looked at here, and I go, why did they place her second? It's because she's complete. She has a
Mm.
complete physique, nice top to bottom balance, posed really well, maybe missed the mark on conditioning, but she had all the body parts. And that's what stood out straight away. And I was like, straight away when they had her in the top three, I was like, she's in there because she's complete,
Mhm, mhm.
versus some of the other ladies that might have been missing body parts. So,
And
um,
her presentation was honestly stunning. Every time she steps on stage, it's very hard not to watch her. She is so beautiful and graceful and elegant. Like, she really does put on a show.
Mm. And let's talk about third place. So we've got Taylor Clark, obviously my client. Um, I have my thoughts, but perhaps you could share some of your thoughts on her physique.
I love Taylor. I think it's been such a beautiful journey to watch, because I was originally Taylor's posing coach way, way, way back. And before one of her shows were cancelled with COVID, and then she came back into the bikini category. And to be able to see her go from being a very small bikini athlete and move into athletic, and not only, stand alongside the other girls, but actually get way up nice and high in the mix, it's so cool. Really, really cool. I think her conditioning was next level. But again, she's taller, so I think she just needs a little bit more size to kind of complete everything.
Yeah, I agree. I think, with this in this top three, probably was the smaller athlete out of the top three, but the proportions are there, the shapes there, the conditioning was there. I think her posing was really on point as well.
Stunning.
She definitely had really good confidence, and not just even Taylor. I think just even ladies outside the top three, you can see that they invested a lot of time. And for me, bikini athletic was my favorite category of the show, because the caliber of ladies that were in condition, that had the good look, you could easily have fourth, fifth, and sixth compete again at another show, and they'll be the top three. But
Mhm.
it just happened to be a very stacked class, and I think it was probably one of the more competitive classes that we've seen, perhaps because they weren't split into short and tall like normally. So we've seen a lot of really good competitors that didn't place in this lineup that would have placed at another show.
Mhm.
Shall we move on to the next?
35 plus.
35 plus. So we've got two ladies here. We have first place, we have Priscilla Carlton, and second place, we have Benny Edwards. So what did you think of these two?
I think it was beautiful. I think it was really, really nice. I was quite shocked that the open category was so massive, and that only two of the girls were in 35 plus, because usually, as you know, with the bikini categories, if there is quite a big lineup, it usually means that the 35 plus lineup is also pretty decent. But both girls were amazing. Again, Priscilla, I loved her posing. She was making sure that she was highlighting the correct things. Sam is a great posing coach. Sam, posed both Priscilla and both of the Taylors in the previous category. And I think it's really helpful when you are going to somebody who knows what you need to display, because essentially she was able to make sure that their poses were hitting the judging criteria, essentially. So I did also really like Binny. I loved her bikini and I loved her shape. I think she has a beautiful midsection. It was just conditioning was just that little bit off.
Yeah, I agree. I suppose, when looking at these two ladies and I suppose comparing them to the open class, conditioning could be improved a bit more. Both have nice structure and shape, but yeah, just need to put the conditioning a little bit more. I think Benny has great density. I would love to see her a bit leaner. I think I'm not sure what her plans are for competition. Again, with the bikini selection, the top half, not a fan of that. I just feel like it doesn't highlight the bikini athletic criteria as much as it could. So it's a cool bikini, but does it highlight what you're looking for with the physique on the stage? No, I don't think so. I like the color, just perhaps not the bikini style. So would like to see that changed as well. But it's interesting. Priscilla has a very nice aesthetic pose here when she's accepting a trophy, right? Like what a smart pose to hit.
Absolutely.
Very, very aesthetic. Let's move on to bikini, which was really interesting. I'm gonna probably have a difference of opinion on you with this, but it makes it more fun. So let's go to bikini class one, and we have first place. We've got two Zoes here. Would you like to have a go at pronouncing that for me?
We have Zoe in the dark blue bikini and Zoe in the lighter blue bikini. No,
I think that works. So we've got, yeah,
I
dark
absolutely not pronounce her
Zoe first
properly.
place dark blue, Zoe second place light blue. Well, Zoe Dowd is a little bit easier.
Go down for second, yes.
Yeah, and third place we have Madison Haskins. So
Mhm.
what are your thoughts on these three?
I actually feel like bikini class A were a lot more conditioned in, let's say, their midsection and their upper body than some of the other bikini classes. Zoe, who placed first, it actually did surprise me because I had seen her at some workshops previously, and I honestly thought she was athletic because I had seen her midsection, I'd seen her upper body. She was super conditioned, and I was like, wow, okay, she wasn't really sure where she was going to sit. So she ended up deciding to do both. And luckily, because she ended up walking away with a pro card. So I think Zoe's legs in particular were bikini. When you could see them on stage, they definitely didn't have the same level of conditioning as the athletic category. But it's kind of a hard one because you can't soften the midsection and not bring the legs in. You can't choose where you lose body fat from. So my only advice would be to somehow soften out her midsection or slightly change her poses so that it wasn't as flexed, I suppose. And yeah, also same for third place for me. She also had a very, very conditioned midsection. So it was just a little developed as opposed to a traditional bikini midsection.
Yeah, I think so. I was actually surprised with the top call out originally because, with bikini athletic, I think this is probably one of the more conditioned bikini athletic categories we had. So that was good because I was like, oh, this is clear distinction between bikini athletic and then bikini. But then when I seen class three come out and I seen the top call out, I was like, oh, these ladies are a little bit hard for my liking, not just from the front, but also from the rear. And the two Zoes were quite well conditioned. I think originally the Zoe Dowd in second was called out first, and they had a good look at her and they ended up placing her second. But I just felt like these ladies were a little bit too conditioned, particularly, and I think they went with Zoe in first probably because she was a little bit less conditioned than Zoe Dowd, because I think Zoe Dowd was like, oh, wow, quad conditioning, glutes from the front and side and rear. And I was like, oh, you're really pushing it. She has a great look, but again, it's like, what are we rewarding here? This is very close to bikini athletic. So I think that was my concern with the judging. I think Madison in third place was probably a better representation of the bikini criteria, being a little bit softer in the right areas. So, yeah, I'd love to hear what the judges' thoughts are on that and the reasons why. I do think that it was very hard to look past them from a presentation point of view,
They
and
definitely
because
stood out.
they had that appeal and they
Mhm.
had that confidence. It's hard to look past a really good competitor when they have all the bells and whistles. It's like, okay, you've got great shape, you've got great proportion, you've got great posing, you have a great smile, you're confident. Okay, you're a little bit too hard, but we might reward you even though you're probably pushing it. And that might be their feedback. Look, we think that you're great, but we would like to see you soften up just to make sure that you're competitive in a pro ranks or whatever it might be. And if that's the justification for the placing, I'm fine with that because I think sometimes if you have a really good athlete that's slightly off the mark in terms of being too hard or too soft and you penalize them heavily, it's not a good look and they're not
No,
going to come back. So
definitely.
if that's the logic, I'm fine with it. But it was a bit interesting. I do think that all three ladies have quite a nice structure, a great look for the sport. But this was a very competitive class. We had ladies that were really good that placed outside the top three as well, that probably came in maybe a little bit softer. And that was probably my concern as a coach. I was like, they're rewarding these ladies a bit hard. And there's ladies that I think that were probably more in line with the conditioning that weren't looked at favorably. So,
I
but
do think it's hard. I think it's hard with bikini conditioning because the easiest way for me to explain it is you need to get as lean as you need to get for your glutes to be tight. And that looks so different on so many different people. Some girls have to get so shredded to get their glutes in condition. Others genetically don't have to get as conditioned. So I have had this conversation about Zoe who placed first. If you blocked off her top half, so her midsection and her arms. If you just were looking at her legs, bikini, absolutely bikini. Like it just, it's a hard one
mm,
for
I
me.
suppose that like it depends on also what the peak week protocol is like. If there's like severe dehydration going on, obviously that's going to bring in the midsection a lot. So that's something that perhaps can be reviewed in a peak week protocol. Not sure whatever that looks like for her. Um, if everything else is on point, but. Yeah, I would like to see what happens in June, right? But for me, I'm like, maybe I got to chase conditioning a little bit more in bikini and flirt with that line a little bit more. I think that's probably what's going to happen.
Find that perfect bikini blend.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, normally I just think I just need to get them as conditioned as you, and that's kind of like that's what I do. I'm like, are you in
Right.
tiny? You in
I'm
tiny
in trouble
conditioning?
then because if you want them to be leaner,
That's
I'm gonna die.
exactly. But you at the end of the day, you've got six titles, so it's like, we got to figure out like what is being rewarded, what's the standard, and if not you, then who? I've got to like we've got to figure out and go, okay, this is the condition that's acceptable, and this is the condition that's too extreme. And sometimes a competitor can push for conditioning, but it's not going to be beneficial for the criteria. And that's why it's really important to work with a coach that's experienced that can see the difference and go, hold on. You're clearly a hard worker. You're capable of getting in better condition. Maybe better condition looks cooler in the gym. Maybe it looks better walking around, but it's not what we're looking for the criteria we need to stop. And then having that, discussion, because it's very easy to work harder, especially when you're
When
ready to
you're
kill it. You're
yeah.
in the zone, you want to crush it, but you've got to be strategic. And this is another thing that just actually going back to bikini athletic, I wonder where the line's going to be, where it's going to be too hard,
Mm,
and at what is the line? Because I felt like Bikini Athletic was probably one of the more conditioned I've ever seen in the class. And it's
definitely.
like, how lean are they going to be accepting for these ladies to get
Mm.
versus, okay, what does fitness condition look like? And also, what does figure conditioning look like?
Mm. I think that's definitely where my mind sort of is at the moment is on the scale between bikini and fitness. When you do have bikini athletic, where is that line in conditioning? Because it's very far from bikini now. Like having a bikini girl next to a bikini athletic girl, then it's not even a step up between categories. It's like it feels like 4 or 5 steps up in terms of conditioning.
Yeah, I would say Bikini Athletic almost is a baby version of fitness rather than a better version of bikini.
I would agree.
It's
Yeah.
more like a fitness, like a sister or a cousin of fitness than bikini, I feel like at least.
Well, that's what we've seen so far. Maybe we just haven't seen the perfect athlete to come through who is exactly what they're looking for.
Mm. We'll see how it all turns out. And I think, yeah, Worlds will help us figure it out. And let's go to, actually, sorry, was there any other lady that you want to talk about in bikini class one?
Yes, I actually loved number 263, which was Amber Evenden. She had like a rainbow bikini on, blonde hair, just stunning. I loved her physique. She was very, very bikini for me. I think from a front shot and a side shot, I would have had her in the top three. I do think it was just that rear shot that kind of let her down a little bit.
It was interesting. I think I said to Hannah, I said, don't let Tani see this bikini. She's going to get
I
ideas.
know. I'm not even going to tell you that she had sent me her bikini sketch and was like, my coach doesn't like it. And I was like, I love it. I'm forever the bad influence.
It's you know what, as the main thing is that the style is on point. The color is somewhat debatable, but if you love it and you feel confident in it, it's going to show on stage and the confidence is going to shine through. And I think that's probably that was the case here. She was really confident and loved it. And imagine if she went for let's say a somewhat of a traditional or a boring color for her standard, she probably
Mm.
wasn't going to feel herself the same way. So I think it was the right selection for her.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. I will also quickly say, actually, so I had a client in this, Emily, in sixth place. I actually thought she got hard done by with the calls because this is someone that I brought in with a good level of condition.
Mhm.
That was certainly what I believe was traditional bikini condition. And even with her posing, like we we softened up her posing from the rear where she couldn't push too much because it'd bring in her adductors. And I'm like, okay, we're clearly in the condition that's needed without going overboard. You can't overpose because it's going to show too much condition. But then when I seen the top three that were on stage and were rewarded, I'm like, yo, like that's clearly pushing it past what we did. And it was interesting. Emily was one of the athletes that I've worked with that was clearly capable of pushing the conditioning more, but I held her back because I didn't think it was necessary. So, yeah, I would actually really curious to see if I can get some feedback on her physique
Is it
from
Emily Drew or Emily Drew Fitness or something?
no, so Emily Gardet. I'll send you some photos of her
Yeah.
and get
Yeah.
your thoughts. I mean, there's a few things that we can do. Like I definitely think her posing, it's her first time on stage. Her posing probably could be better. I think it was good, but we can definitely step it up and go to the next level with her confidence. I think, as a first time competitor, her proportions, like her front poses are amazing. I'll show you them and you'll be like, oh, okay.
Yeah. So
Um,
perhaps just more of a case of just not being able to stand out enough unless you know to look out for her sort of thing.
I
Because
think
I'm
so.
trying to think, I'm like, I can't picture it. And usually if I can't picture it, it means there was a little bit of a blend, whether that be bikini, overall style, something
Yeah.
not hard enough.
Yeah, I definitely think there's a few things that we can improve on. But yeah, I'll send you some pictures of her after, and then you'll love her front shots. Her front shots are money. They're really really good. So let's move on to bikini class two. So we have first place. We have Kristen. How do you say that?
Ode? Ode?
Ode?
I don't know. I just made it
Okay.
up because I can't
All right.
fancy.
Second, sorry. So Kristen, you're a winner. So it doesn't matter how we say your last name because you're winning. You've got a big smile. Second place, Angelica Salvador, and third place we have Amy Parkinson. So really, really interesting.
Hmm.
What are your thoughts on these ladies?
I definitely think Kristen was a standout winner for me in this category. I think her overall shape was beautiful. She, had really nice density, but again, because she had the longer legs, it wasn't bordering the size of bikini athletic. I loved her posing. She was really just like calm, collected, soft, elegant. And she kind of had this aura about her that was I don't know if calm's the right word, but she was just so humbly confident. Like there are girls who come out and they're little pocket rockets, right? And they're like, yes, I'm here. Look at me, look at me, look at me. And she was kind of just very like, here I am. Yep, take it all in, which I was like, yes, that's a form of confidence. I really, really like that. Her quads were pretty big, in her front poses, I will say. But the overall shape definitely had her in first place for me.
Yeah, I think she had first place confidence. As soon as she walked out, she owned it and has a really nice proportion, great small waist here. Definitely, I would say was the clear winner of this class. And yeah, I mean, what else can I say about her? I don't know. It's just I think yeah, she's clear winner, clear winner.
Absolutely.
I think yeah, the first class, class one, not so clear. Took a little bit of time, whereas this class, Kristen just walked out and owned it, and I thought yeah, easy. Then for me, it was about okay, who's in second and third,
Yeah.
and with this, with Angelica in second, a lot of confidence again. Big smile on stage, really was owning her poses. Obviously, I'm a fan of this bikini. This is Nay's
It's
original
a day
bikini.
special.
It went to Nay, then it went to Swinda, and now it's gone to Angelica, and it suited her really well. The green is perfect for ladies with jet black hair, and great, great presentation overall. Like the confidence was there. I would say a little bit undersized, perhaps for my liking. So it's interesting because she has the wow factor. She's got that presentation. She's got that crazy small waist. She has the ideal look, but needing to get a bit more size, but obviously the judges were quite impressed with her. What do you think gave her second place over Amy that was placed in third?
Um, Again, I think that she was just so beautiful. It was really hard not to watch her. I definitely would like to see a little bit more size, particularly in her glutes. So her side shots and her rear shots weren't as strong as they could have been. Amy's really interesting. So Amy was actually gunning for bikini athletic the entire time. She was coming in super shred lord, and then about 2 weeks out, we had the conversation about her also doing bikinis. So we're like, right, let's alter your poses. Let's kind of make some adjustments. Her and her coach worked on changing their peak week plan to bring her in a lot softer so that she wasn't looking as conditioned. So to place third in bikini when you originally weren't even going to enter bikini, I think is absolutely insane. Like yeah, just her overall shape, her glutes into a nice teeny tiny waist. For me, if it were a side shot, I would have had Amy in second and Angela perhaps in third, but I definitely think from the front that Angela might have had Amy there.
Yeah. For me, I'm always going to lean towards a bit more size. That's just, I think I would have probably placed Amy in front of her, but I can see the argument. And when it's sort of when there's a debate there, I think it's cool. It wasn't like, oh, this is a terrible decision. It was more like subjective. I'm always going to lean towards size, and I can see why Amy was probably aiming for bikini athletic to begin with because she does have a good amount of density, and she has a structure that she can easily do bikini or bikini athletic. So going to be really interesting to see. Did she enjoy doing bikini, and do you think that she's going to do it again, or is she aiming for bikini athletic next time?
I think it will completely depend on her physique, but I know that she really enjoyed herself because the bikini athletic category was on first. A lot of the time for the first timers, they're a bit nervous the first time. It's a bit more intimidating. So regardless whether it's the night show or a second category, whenever anyone steps on stage for the second time, they usually have more fun.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. The nerves they're out the window type of thing. Okay. Was there any other ladies that you really enjoyed watching, or anyone that stood out to you outside the top three?
I will say number 274, her name was Avery. She had a red bikini on. I loved her shape from the front. I think she was absolutely gorgeous. She had this beautiful hourglass figure. It just was lacking the conditioning and the size from the back and in her rear shot. And again, maybe posing selection could have been a little bit stronger, or she perhaps could have altered her back walk to show a little bit more conditioning, but her from the front, I think, has so much potential.
Yeah, I agree. She had a good look. When I seen her, I thought, oh, I'd like to see you just with a few different adjustments. But I can
Mm.
see where, if she continues doing this, she has a lot of room to do well. Like she can make some changes and really shock the judges in terms of, presenting a completely different package. So I agree. I would like to see that. If you were suggesting when she should compete again, what would you recommend for her, let's say to get a top placing?
I would definitely say take a 12-month off season, build up the glutes, and then come back with more conditioning.
Yep, I agree. I think that would be awesome. Okay, so we go to class three.
Any task three.
All right, so we have all the Taylors are winning here. So we got first place, we have Taylor Parker. Second place, we've got Madeline Hutton. Third place, we have Maddie Otto. This was an interesting one. What are your thoughts on these three ladies in the class?
Taylor was definitely a clear winner in this class. She had the most size. I think for me, Taylor's conditioning was on point because she wasn't overdone. For me, that was perfect bikini conditioning. She was tight where she needed to be, but she wasn't overly dry or grainy or anything that would kind of push her out of that category. Same thing, I loved her posing. It was very simple, very neat, very tidy, but did the job enough to get her into that first spot. So I'm very happy with how this category was placed.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to be a little bit more critical. I think that for me, yeah, I didn't like her condition.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't like it. I think that when she competed last time, it was so now it was she competed last at an October show, right? And she had a leaner look there. I think she's come back with more size. I think she's come back with really good presentation. She's polished when she's posing. She looked like the winner in terms of how she was presenting, the confidence on the facial expression. She was just like, yo, I'm here. This is me. I'm a boss. And she had that vibe, which was really impressive. And I think that her bikini style, perfect. Color, perfect. So the presentation was on point. Hair and makeup's on point as well. But yeah, conditioning, I think, particularly from the rear. And if we look at the ladies in class one, super conditioned
Very
versus
different.
the tour class, not so much. Obviously, you're judging who's up on stage, but I felt like, yeah, she could have been a bit better from a conditioning perspective. And I think that Madeline in second um, was probably a bit more conditioned than her, but I
Yeah.
suppose lost maybe the front poses based on the presentation, the posing side of things.
Yeah, definitely. I think, yeah, Madeline for me in second place has so much potential. Her actual bikini shape is insane. And particularly when she is in her front pose and she's kind of pushing into that hip to highlight that glute and highlight that hourglass shape, her waist is absolutely impossible. So for me, it's more of she needs more size, particularly in the glutes and the delts, just to kind of highlight that a bit more because she does have such long legs. Her conditioning for me was spot on, really loved it. And yeah, I think just being able to be a little bit more confident with her posing and more confident within herself. So, given that it was her first time on stage, I think that if she were to come back, she would definitely have a lot more poise about her. She would feel a little bit more at home and more comfortable.
I did think this was her first time on stage, and 'cause I haven't seen her before, and I was like, she does have a really good look. But yeah, would you like to see her in a different color bikini? I feel like that could probably help her pop a bit more.
I think so. Yeah. But don't ask me because I love the brights and the funs. I'll say
Yeah.
rainbow or orange, and you'll be like, no.
I think with her, I would like to see her come back. She's got like a very mature look to her. I think a red would look good on her. Sometimes people want to stay away from red with the blondes, but you know, sometimes it's an easy color to pick. But I just feel like she's got a very mature look, and I think red would help her stand out on stage as well. Be curious.
Especially with a full like leg sleeve of tattoos. Like
Mm,
that's so impressive to be able to show that shape and show her conditioning when essentially you almost cannot see one entire leg of hers, which is
mm.
pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. All three ladies quite impressive here. Shall we discuss anyone else?
I will say at one point I wasn't sure if third place and fourth place were going to be the way that they were. I did at one point think that number 281 Rebecca Moser. I think she was in the mix for top three, but when it came down to the comparisons, I do think she got bumped back to fourth. So I will say she's made a lot of improvements since her last show. She's definitely put on some size. If anything, I think maybe she could come in a little bit more conditioned. She had the gorgeous like red hair and the gold bikini. I just love her look. It's so unique.
Yeah.
So unique. And that's what I love. I love when people can just authentically be themselves and not feel like they have to try and replicate other people in the space.
Well, that's really important because as we mentioned with the kind of like the fluoro colors, it's like be yourself because that's what people are gonna like, your personality to see that if you're not feeling comfortable in the bikini you're wearing and you're not sort of doing poses that make you feel comfortable, it's not gonna
Show.
work. People are
Yeah,
gonna
it's
see
a show.
that. So yeah, you gotta like own who you are and just feel yourself. And that sometimes can be represented in the bikini. Sometimes it's even in hair and makeup. Maybe you want to do your hair a certain way that gives you that confidence, that gives you that energy to go, yeah, I'm feeling myself today. And then you can go and crush it. And we see that
Absolutely.
all the time. Sometimes ladies have interesting hair selection and you talk to them after the show and they're like, "Oh, I wasn't that confident because they're thinking about their hair."
Yeah, exactly. It is. I always think about it when you're getting ready for show day, like you are essentially putting on your armor to go to battle. Like everything that you have on needs to make you feel strong and confident and like you're ready to go and face the world. If anything is slightly missing, whether that be you don't like your makeup, don't stick with it. Go and get it fixed. Fix it yourself. If you don't like your hair, go and ask one of the girls to help you to fix it. If something's wrong with your bikini, it's not sitting right, go and see one of the girls because ultimately, if there is a little kink in the chain anywhere, it is going to show on stage. So for me, one of the worst things that I could have on stage, or one of the worst things that I feel like could happen on stage is if you're looking at an athlete from the audience or from a judge's perspective and you go, oh, that looks like so and so. Oh, that's the same bikini as so and so. It's not necessarily that it's the same bikini per se, but if it's something that's very, very iconic, you don't want to be like, oh, remember that girl that kind of looks like such and such? you want to be like, oh my God, remember this girl who posed like this, or remember this girl with that gorgeous, red hair and gold bikini. Like you want something that shows who you are. You want to be remembered as you, not anybody else.
Yo, slay. You just like absolutely crushed that right there.
Put
Let's
that on a
let's
Christmas
move
card.
let's move on to the next one. So we've got bikini 35 plus. We have first place. So this is the another crazy bikini here that I'm sure you love.
Loved it.
Slater. Second place, Stacey Lee Jackson. Third place, my client Chelsea Burke. What are you thinking of these three? Obviously, I know that you love the bikini.
Yes, love, 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 love. I think these girls were stunning. I was very, very happy with these placings. I think for me, second and third were very close. It could have gone either way at different points in time. But yeah, I was just overall really happy with the ladies. I think that Tilsa was perfect for bikini. Absolutely perfect. Loved it. Loved her shape, loved her confidence, her entire look. Stacey, again, I think was absolutely beautiful. I think perhaps after being on stage already, she built a little bit more confidence by this time to kind of, highlight or showcase a little bit better in the 35 plus category. And Chelsea just has the most contagious energy. You just watch her and you want to smile. They're like,
Yeah.
oh, you're just so beautiful. And I love that that naturally just radiates from her on stage.
And crazy that this was 35 plus. I
I
feel
know
like
they always get me. My
they're,
goodness.
they're really taking it to another level. I think, yeah, Tilsa, I suppose what stood out to me, like Bikini definitely did, and she definitely owned it. I felt like her condition to me was the key factor that got her the win. She was very lean from the front, had really nice bikini proportions, and when I seen her walk out, I was like, okay, you're definitely placing today. It's just a matter of what. And when I obviously seen her in a lineup, I'm like, first, second, third to me was pretty clear. I think that these ladies stood out and all have really nice bikini proportions, all have different strengths and weaknesses. But yeah, I think a pretty solid 35 plus lineup. Like, if you just look at the image here with them winning, it's like perfect structure for bikini. And this is a good representation. So it's like this is also a high standard for 35 plus for the June show. We'll see what these ladies look like coming up. But I was very impressed and I'm pretty happy with the first, second, and third in this order.
Yep.
Okay, let's go to the next one, which is bikini 45 plus. We have first place, we have Heidi. Second place, we have Rachel Harrison Wyatt. And third place, we have Mel Murphy. What did you think?
I definitely think Heidi was a clear winner for me in this category. She suited the bikini criteria the best. I actually really, really liked Mel Murphy, but she probably wasn't bikini shape. I think she was probably a little bit closer to fitness or a little bit closer to a bikini athletic shape. And I loved the overall look of Rachel, who came second. She had the cool short hair, like cool bikini, just a really fun vibe.
Yeah, I think you know what was really cool with these? All three ladies were feeling themselves on stage. They were owning it. So I feel like as soon as we get a little bit, in the 35 plus and you go to 45 plus, they supremely confident on stage.
Yeah, because, and I think it's such a beautiful thing as well, because they probably, a lot of these women have children. They've lived so many different lives already that they finally get to have this piece that is just for them. So they get on stage and they just leave nothing to bear. They're done with any reservations. They're like, I actually did this. Take it in, have a look, because I'm proud of me. So
Mm.
everybody else watching is also going to be proud of me.
Absolutely. And yeah, for me, Heidi goes without saying, clear winner, purple bikini, loved it. Waist is super tight, really nice proportions, really nice hair. I think she was the standout with this and obviously was rewarded accordingly. So let's go on to the next one. So we've got fitness. We have two ladies competing. First, we've got Charlie Langley, and second place we have Tegan, is it Mays?
Nice. Yeah.
Tegan Mays. Both ladies have really good density. I think I'm going to be super picky here and say I'd love to see both of these ladies in better condition. So we had Bikini Athletic on before, and a lot of the ladies were peeled. So we're talking about what separates Bikini Athletic and fitness apart from size. Conditioning is probably very similar. It's the same ballpark conditioning, at least until we see that clear distinction at Worlds. But fitness is definitely a level up in muscle, which you can see both ladies have, I would say, a level up in muscle compared to what was rewarded in bikini athletic, which is great. But we do want to see the conditioning as well.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts?
I think it's interesting because previous to bikini athletic, I would have looked at this fitness conditioning and honestly been quite happy with it. I think, yes, they could definitely push a little bit further, but I wouldn't have thought that they were necessarily unconditioned or not hard enough. But because of bikini athletic, I do feel like my expectations were higher and I would have liked to have seen a little bit more conditioning. I think Charlie won purely based on size. I think she has so much density. Even when you look at her quads, like it's very, very insane in a front shot. And Tegan, again, has once upon a time been a bikini competitor. So to be able to move through the ranks and have this much size and this much conditioning is very, very, very admirable.
You know what's interesting? We talked about someone competing in fitness and going down to bikini athletic. I actually wouldn't mind seeing her go down to bikini athletic. I think this is a perfect example of that because she's got really good genetics. You can see here her shoulder to waist ratio is great. She's got great quad development. She could easily go, you know what? I could change my poses and I could go into bikini athletic. That's if she wants to. Like it's something that I would consider if she has that goal. Maybe her goal is to get as jacked as possible and she wants to really fill out for the fitness criteria, which is cool. But I think this is an example of a lady who can make that change if she wants to because she has got that crazy genetics. You've got the beautiful structure where she can literally do any category she wants. Like if she wanted to do figure, she could easily, she has the structure for it. She could just obviously put on the size required to compete at that level. But yeah, bikini
I do,
athletic, possibly.
interestingly enough, I think she competed in wellness. I think she did wellness and fitness. Perhaps maybe next time it could have been athletic and fitness.
There you go. I think, yeah, I'd love to see her compete again. So,
So much potential.
mm.
It does.
And interesting, like she's obviously, tried out different categories and come from bikini, but yeah, the structure's definitely there. I think she's got what it takes. So, and we will go to the last one we got here, which is fitness 35 plus. So we have first place, we have Priscilla Carlton, and second place we have Coral Simmons. Thoughts?
So we've got Priscilla again, who ended up winning her pro card in the Bikini Athletics 35 plus category. Again, I love her shape. I think she's just absolutely stunning. I love her conditioning. If anything, perhaps for the fitness category, she could have maybe pushed into her glutes just a little bit more, just because they were so conditioned. I feel like sometimes the leaner you get, the more you have to push into that rear shot just to make sure that there's no skin movement or anything that's kind of sitting there. It does really need to be stretched against the muscle as much as possible. But given the lineup, definitely a clear winner in this category as well. I do feel like she's definitely more of a bikini athletic shape, but yeah, in this lineup, she was the clear winner for the fitness category.
Yeah, I agree. I think that her physique is probably best suited for bikini athletic for this moment until if she does have the ambition to want to grow into the fitness, she would need to put on a bit of size to be competitive because these girls are super developed, especially in the pros. So I'm thinking that bikini athletic would be the better category for her, and she can challenge herself, I suppose, and maybe she'll compete. More than likely, I see a lot of these ladies probably wanting to compete at Worlds and do their debut at Worlds, especially now that there's no qualification for it. Is that correct?
Yeah, not for that, not for the amateurs, no.
What about for the pros?
I believe you still need to, I don't want to say the wrong thing. My understanding is that if you have a crown, you're immediately qualified. If you have not competed in an FMG show yet, I think you might need to compete before Worlds,
Hmm.
but I could be wrong, so don't take my word for it.
Yeah, double check, ladies. And we'll just quickly, I want to mention as well, Coral, super confident. Again, it's like anyone above 35 plus, they just like love their time on
Gorgeous.
stage, owning it, big smile, happy to be there, really being, you know what it is? It's actually being present.
Yeah.
They're probably less nervous
Got
and
in their head.
they're present. They're just like, I've done all my work. I'm here. I'm happy. I'm loving and owning my time on stage. Whereas some ladies, perhaps the day goes way too quick because they're so focused on, oh, nervous, nervous, nervous. And then they're on stage and they're off stage and like, oh, it's over. Whereas these
Yeah.
ladies, present, enjoying it, big smile. You can see when they're walking on, whether they're in the best condition possible, whether they're undersized, it doesn't matter. They're just owning it and loving it. So that was really nice to see. I really enjoy the ladies that are a little bit more mature, the 35 and the 45 plus for that reason. So
Me
Um,
too. I will say, now that we don't have the gown round, something really big that I noticed is previously, we all know that the majority of the judging is done in the morning show, but I know that a lot of competitors would stress between the morning show and the night show about, okay, what adjustments do I need to make? Do I need to come in tighter? Do I need to show this more? And kind of just really get in their head and they forget the actual experience. And now it's so evident that when they come out on stage for the night show, they literally cannot be sitting there scrolling saying, okay, let's change seventh and ninth place. Like the scoring is essentially mostly completely done. It would take a lot to really change a placing. So for ladies, I think it's a really important reminder that the morning show is where the show is won. That's the one you need to peak for. That's the one you need to pose the hardest for. Yes, you're going to be nervous, but at the end of the day, that's the one that determines the placing. So come in for that particular morning show.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better. I know we've got limited time as well because you've got your next posing client coming up. But that's pretty much all our thoughts on the show. And I actually wanted to say something quickly as well. Um, I always recommend you for posing, like as my first preference, right? And some ladies do, some ladies don't. That's fine. But actually getting to see you, because I haven't seen you pose someone in real life in a long time, and I seen you on the Gold Coast weekend, just adjusting Nay. So Nay, for anyone that's doesn't know, Chico's future figure
Who
world
doesn't
champion.
know Nay?
Just in case we might have
Would
some new
you
ladies,
not know
we
Nay?
might have some fresh newbies that may not know, or maybe I'm being a little bit humble here. But your attention to detail with your posing is definitely on another level. And this is what I say to ladies. You're not just picking a posing coach. You're picking someone that has passion. You're picking someone that has attention to detail that will get you that nod when it comes down to, okay, it's close between first and second. What is going to be the difference? And it comes down to the details in your presentation and, of course, your posing. And if you're polishing your posing and a few different tweaks can make all the difference. And it was really cool to see your level of attention to detail when it came to Nay. And she learned a lot from that posing session because I spoke to her after and she was really happy about it. And I'm just really looking forward to seeing what you guys do together. And I also wanted to say for the ladies that need to work on their posing, you're silly not to take Tani on and to work with her. Like you're actually stupid. Like there are so many ladies that compete, like that compete. They walk on stage and it's like Tani's pose. Okay, she's got confidence already. I know that she works with you, or perhaps works with the Posing Institute. It's always the same.
Very hard on our girls and our coaches as well to make sure that that level is, completely across the board. There are no lagging posing coaches. I just simply wouldn't have them on the team.
Yeah, and it's good because a rising tide is very important and it sets a high standard. And you can see that not just with clearly there's a lot of ladies here from the Posing Institute that have placed, but outside of placing, that's not everything. They they pose really well and they look grouse on stage, even if they're outside the top three. So
I
props to
think
you.
that's very nice. My biggest thing in terms of the intention of posing is it has gotten so lost along the way. All of these ridiculous arms and fluffy extras and spins and all of these things have come into play, which are great. They're fun, they're beautiful, they can help you stand out. But the actual essence or the purpose of a pose is to show your physique. And somewhere along the line, that's starting to get a little bit blurred across posing coaches. So I think when you are looking for a posing coach, whoever that may be, make sure that they know how to pose you for your division. They know how to pose you for your physique. They can openly assess you and see, okay, maybe we do have a little bit of a weakness here, or maybe this is more of a highlighted strength that we can show towards the judges. Because at the end of the day, you can look beautiful on stage, you can be flapping your arms around, but if your physique isn't where it needs to be, you're not going to place. And essentially, that's what your posing coach is doing for you, helping you show off your hard work from you and your coach. And if that synergy between coach, posing coach, and athlete isn't there, then it's not really perhaps the right fit.
It makes it really challenging. And there's a difference between being a good poser yourself and being a good posing coach because you can be a good poser, but you copying and pasting that routine or those same poses isn't going to work for everyone. You need a posing coach that looks and assesses at your physique and go, okay, you have these weaknesses. We can highlight your strengths here. We need to adjust your footwork, whatever it might be. And that's something that I've seen that you did with Nate. You adjusted her posing. She got a lot of density as a figure athlete, but you personalized it for her, which was really interesting to see. And obviously, it's important. If you don't do that, then you're going to be posing like everyone else, right? And teaching that way. So I wanted to give you props for that.
Thank you.
Cool.
I get
Well,
Yeah.
Thank you for coming on. I know that you've got to run, so it was great having you. And for anyone that wants to reach out to Tani, definitely contact her on her Instagram, and I'm sure she'll be willing to work with you. Thank you for coming on and sharing your insight. It's always good to have you on, and we'll definitely be probably discussing some of the other shows coming up.
Definitely. We've got lots of shows this year, which means lots of wrap ups to come.
Perfect. Thank you for everyone listening. Until next time, peace.